Okay, so this lesson is about factor by grouping. So we've done some factoring already, looking for greatest common factors. And many times we've been looking for greatest common factors, it's been in the form of a monomial. So for example, something like 2x squared plus, let's say, 4x. We can see that each of those terms we can factor out a 2 and also an x. So we could factor out a 2x. And if we divide 2x squared by 2x, that would give us an x. And if we divide 4x by 2x, it would leave us with a 2. So from the previous assignments, you should see that's something we've worked at. In the example below, though, we can see that we have a common factor in both, and that's this x plus 4 here and x plus 4 here. So the GCF for this first question would actually be x plus 4. So if we were to divide by x plus 4, so what we're saying is we're gonna factor out an x plus 4, and you remember that's actually dividing every term by that now. So if we were to do that, the first term would just leave us with the first x, so we have an x. And if we divided the second term by x plus 4, that would leave us with just the 5. Okay, so maybe pause the video and see if you can do the next question. So next question here, we've got each term here has actually two common factors, x plus 1, that's a weird little bracket, and also 3x minus 2. Now it is in a slightly different order here. But if I was to factor out those two terms, let's factor out an x plus 1 and a 3x minus 2, then essentially we would be dividing this side by x plus 1 and 3x minus 2, and doing the same thing here, dividing this by x plus 1 and 3x minus 2. So if we divide the first term by that, that would just leave us with our little old 6x here. So we can put a 6x over here. Or sorry, 7x, what am I saying? Let me scribble that, I can't get to my eraser right now. It's kind of messy here. So that's going to be my 7x. And now if I divide the left side by x plus 1 and 3x minus 2, it's kind of dividing by the same thing. So they're saying like 5 divided by 5. And so we know that doesn't equal 0, that equals 1. So in fact there's a 1 in front of this. But because of that minus sign, it would leave us with a minus 1 then. So 7x minus 1 would be the last term there. Okay, so looking at a method called factor by grouping, some polynomials, we're going to notice that we have to sometimes group certain terms together, do some factoring of those terms, looking for a GCF, and then we actually do even further factoring. So it's just like fun with factoring, lots of factoring. So looking at this first question here, if we were to just look at the very first two terms, I want you to think about what is the greatest common factor of those two terms. So it looks like they both contain an m. So let's factor an m out of that. So factor an m out. And that would leave the first term being x, and then the second term being y. And now for the next two terms, let's look at those two terms. So those two terms, xp and yp, they both contain the letter p. So let's factor p out of that. So we'll bring down the plus sign here, this addition sign between them. So we're the same sign here. So we're going to add a p here. And now if you were to factor a p out of the green set of brackets, that would leave us with an x plus a y. Now notice that you're left with a term that actually both terms now have x plus y. So let's divide both terms by x plus y. So we're going to factor out an x plus y here. So if you took the first term and divided it by x plus y, think what you'd be left with. And if you did the same thing to this term, x plus y, you're dividing it, what would you be left with? So we know x plus y divided by x plus y is 1. So it'd be 1 times m, which is m. And then the second term, we have p times x plus y divided by x plus y. So that's going to give us p. Okay, so here's two other questions. You want to try these sort of on your own, and then I'll show the solution for them. Okay, so from the first set of brackets, I'm going to factor out, that's interesting, I'm going to factor out a 3x squared from those brackets. That would leave me with just 1x. And then 6 divided by 3 is 2, but I'm going to bring the negative sign, and I would have taken all the x's out. And from this set of brackets, the only thing I can really factor out is a 1. So I'm going to pull out a 1 here, factor a 1 out. And that would leave me with x minus 2. So what's common here is this x minus 2. So I'm going to pull out an x minus 2. And when I do that, I'm basically dividing each term now by x minus 2. So in the first one, if I do x minus 2 divided by x minus 2, they would cancel. And that would leave me with 3x squared. And in the next one, the x minus 2's would cancel. Now it's really important to say that's not 0. It's not, you're not subtracting them, you're dividing them. So if you divide two numbers that are the same, you're actually left with a 1 if you do that. So that's going to be 3x squared plus 1. Let me do that. From the next question over here, we could factor out definitely a 3 and an x squared. And that would leave us with 6 divided by 3 is 2 and 1x. And then 15 divided by 3 is 5. And you've taken out both the x squareds there. And from the next set of brackets, we've got a 4 and a 10, so we can definitely take out a 2. Factor out a 2, I should say. And that would leave us with 2x plus 5. And then once again, you notice that each term has a 2x plus 5. So let's factor out a 2x plus 5. And once again, that's the same thing as now dividing each of those terms by 2x plus 5. So divide that by 2x plus 5. So we know that 2x plus 5 divided by 2x plus 5 would be 1. And that would leave us with our 3x squared. And same here, that would cancel. So in our final brackets here, we'd be left with 3x squared plus 2. There we go. Okay, our last question. Hopefully I can squeeze this in here before I run out of time. So sometimes the terms aren't in the right order. You might have to rearrange them a little bit. And so if I look here, I don't really have much to factor other than like a y out. And I've got this 5 and this 10 business. So I'm going to rearrange this to be, I might switch the place of the two middle numbers, middle terms. And so it's going to be minus 10x squared. And then plus 2y minus y squared. So from here, I'm going to factor out 5x squared, and that would leave us with a y and a minus 2. And then from here, I can factor out a y. So I'm looking at factoring out y here, and that would leave us with a 2 minus a y. I'm just going to factor in these brackets here. Okay, so I've got a weird scenario here where I've got y minus 2 and 2 minus y. And I'm going to stop the video here and just start another video because I'm not going to have enough time to finish this. So maybe come back in just a second.